With this chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, we have the reveal of Maru's reality-breaking curse technique, along with the return of the legend himself, Yuji Itadori. Picking up from where we last left off, the elderly sorcerer lifted his hat and wondered what in the world was going on around him. An injured Tsurugi called out to Maru in shock. The old man turned in the alien's direction. He was surprised to see that the guy he'd knocked out was still able to move. He cautiously mocked the boy's return. Maru didn't answer either of them as he approached the elder, who was now on guard. Maru's third eye swiveled around and assessed the current situation. The eternal first grader wondered if that third eye of his was real. Then, the eye callously locked onto him. Suddenly, it opened wide and released a surge of power. The old man's eyes lulled and shifted unnaturally as he desperately tried to shield himself from the mind-numbing onslaught. He quickly stabbed his own hand in order to regain his grip on reality. As he pulled the needle out, he realized that he had lost control over his guardian spirit. Between this and what we saw happen to the smuggler before, it seems like this ability destabilizes the cursed energy of others. And at the same time, Maru moved towards him with something in hand. It was a huge chunk of rubble. The old man's reflexes were quick, but the rock juked his jab with an impossible shift of trajectory. The Grade 1 sorcerer's eyes went wide with disbelief. He was knocked off balance and hurled onto a metallic platform as Maru rushed ahead of him. Maru was behind him in an instant with his leg raised high. His opponent looked over his shoulder in dismay. The ferocity of Maru's movements were plain to see. His stomp ruptured the structure as the old man sprawled away like a bug, desperate to avoid a heavy boot. Tsurugi guarded his sister's unconscious body with his own. He had to question if Maru had always been this strong, but he just as quickly accepted that something was very wrong here. The old man regained his footing with a skid into the school's gymnasium. Now he was sure that he had made a big mistake by not finishing the boy off when he had the chance. Maru moved towards him like an emotionless Terminator. His third eye remained fixed on the old sorcerer. On the roof of a nearby building was a lone figure. Maru's brother Cross looked down on his older brother for losing his composure to such a creature. The alien was sure that this incident would push the humans towards plotting against them. But unlike his brother, Cross wasn't opposed to the notion of conflict. In fact, he believed it would be quite useful. Even the idea of all-out war couldn't faze him on account of his comrade, Dabura. And the powerhouse alien shares his name with the Demon King from Dragon Ball. And that character's name was inspired by the magical phrase, Abracadabra. With how strong Maru and effectively Cross are with this chapter, I can only imagine how wild Dabura's powers must be. Various basket and volleyballs began to float in the air. Many of them hovered around Maru. The old man questioned if he was looking at a case of gravity reversal, which is as much as we were able to deduce from the previous chapter. But ultimately, he concluded that this technique probably surpasses humanity's understanding of Jujutsu. So even he came to the realization that what he was up against was otherworldly, even beyond the traditional sense. The geezer knew that worrying wouldn't help him here, but really couldn't help himself in the face of all this madness. The hands of a clock were whirling around as if to count down his end. A scale exceeded its capacity for measurement as if to show how far Maru's power was beyond his. A loudspeaker was triggered and spoke of 5 seconds remaining. A countdown began as the two fighters prepared themselves for the continuation of their battle. Now facing the harbinger of his demise, the elder suddenly recounted a similar encounter he had many moons ago. The time when he nearly died in a fight against a single man. And that man was Yuji Itadori. His eyes were cold, and I can only imagine that this guy survived thanks to Yuji's empathy. The countdown ended, and the man narrowly evaded a high kick that shunted a ball. He quickly lashed out with his weapon. Maru's head shifted, while his third eye didn't so much as blink. He caught the needle between his fingers, while the sorcerer caught a kick to the chest. He fell back with blood spurting from his mouth. But before he could regain his composure, the volleyballs surrounding him became volatile. They all exploded! The killer grandpa had to stab the ground to keep himself from being blown away. But Maru was behind him with another volleyball in hand. His opponent couldn't even turn fast enough. He was pegged in the head by a mean toss. This was followed up by a vicious series of fists to the face. They shot him through the gym and into the school's pool. Maru casually approached his location as pool water rained down. The old man was now fully submerged. But this was no time for rest. The water was boiling. He leapt out before he could be cooked. But when he did, Maru simply closed his hand. The water froze over in an instant and encased the cursed user's entire body. Maru leapt up to his immobilized prey with a fist that would end it all. The defeated old man now understood that the boy's curse technique was the incomprehensible itself, the total breakdown of all logic and reason. Tsurugi blocked Maru's fist with his blade and his own before the fatal blow could be struck. But even for the heavily restricted musclehead, the force was far too great. Both he and the old man were flung beyond the pool. The villain was already unconscious. Still injured and holding onto his side, Tsurugi urged Maru to stop. And upon closer inspection, Tsurugi's fear was confirmed. Maru was definitely unconscious. Cross continued to observe from his elevated vantage point. He was impressed by the boy's movements in spite of his injuries, and this turned out to be yet another favorable development. Tsurugi's protection or aggression would both be of use to the Simorians. Tsurugi considered the fact that the sorcerers of Earth aren't unified with their leadership, so it was very possible that some would seek the use of aliens without acceptance. There would surely be radicals itching for an excuse to wage war and reap the benefits. Sorcerer or not, there was no way they would sit back if Maru ends up killing a human. At the same time, Cross realized that a guilty old man would be an inferior martyr compared to an innocent young sorcerer with great potential. With that, Cross commanded his unconscious brother to cut Tsurugi down. Tsurugi remembered what Maru said about wanting to get along with him, so he smiled and found his resolve. He doesn't want Maru, of all people, to become a catalyst of war. Tsurugi shouted at Maru to wake up. Instead, Maru released power from his third eye yet again. Tsurugi braced himself against the onslaught, but it would seem that his lack of curse energy was actually to his benefit here. As his nose bled, he begged his friend to wake up. Cross continued to observe without fanfare. Tsurugi shouted a reminder that the two of them are supposed to be neighbors, and those words seemed to unexpectedly move Cross. Maru's power continued to spill out as Tsurugi stared back. Then there was movement. Cross appeared in front of his brother with an outstretched hand. He told Maru to calm down, and just like that, his older brother's body fell. Cross scowled and cursed while looking back at the Earthling. Tsurugi had fallen unconscious while Cross questioned what the hell he was doing. The young sorcerer's words managed to reawaken his heart. This chapter was just incredible. Poor Yuka is still stuck with the Nobara special right now, but I'm sure she'll have her moment eventually. Things are really heating up, and I am having a blast. Maru was able to defy gravity, apply heavy weight, trigger explosions, disrupt curse energy, instantly boil water, instantly freeze water, and exert enough physical strength to overwhelm a heavily restricted fighter in close combat. Even for the old era where sorcerers were strong, this is an insane arsenal of abilities. And with how easy this fight was for him, it's probably just the beginning. I would love to know what you guys think about Maru's reality warping powers, along with that tease of our boy Yuji. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.